All right, chat. The New York Times is reporting first test of Trump's power to fire officials reaches Supreme Court. Is New York Times description something to be proud of, though? Yes, it is. I am supporting the news. The court's conservative majority may be receptive to the argument that presidents have unlimited power to remove leaders of independent agencies. Chat, I'd like to ask you guys a very simple question, ones or twos. Is an agency independent if the president has unilateral total power to fire them? The answer here. I don't understand why they chose this picture to use here. But, you know, let's have our woman in front. No, no. Wow, you guys seem like a reasonable 1930s Supreme Court opinion. So this report is expected to act in the coming days on the Trump administration's emergency application. In the first case to reach the Supreme Court arising from the blitz of actions taken in the early weeks of the new administration, lawyers for President Trump asked the justices on Sunday to let him fire a government lawyer who leads a watchdog agency. The administration's emergency application asked the court to vacate a federal trial judge's order temporarily reinstating Hampton Dellinger, the head of the Office of Special Counsel. The Office of Special Counsel is basically, an agency that looks into safeguarding government whistleblowers and enforcing ethics laws. So remember how Trump said he's going to, drain the swamp? And, his first act is to try to fire the head of the agency that's responsible for draining the swamp. The Trump administration's filing said, and I'm gonna use a voice for this. This court should not allow lower courts to seize executive power by dictating to the president how long he must continue employing an agency head against his will, the administration's filing said. So, chat, there are these things called independent agencies. Independent agencies are these pseudo legislative and executive agencies. So basically, Congress decides to make an agency and give it a certain level of funding. And then they might be able to say, for example, that the president is able to elect people to work at this agency, or they might say the president is able to nominate folks who are then confirmed, by the Senate or by the House, however the process goes there. And the job of the independent agency is to do what the legislator has asked it to do, which means, it is in some ways enforcing law, which is how the executive powers of the president come into play. So it is kind of a hybrid organization. Also, I love New York Times. You have a moment, play these games. No, New York Times, I'm trying to do a stream right now. The court is expected to act in the coming days. The filing amounts to a challenge to a foundational precedent that has said that Congress can limit the president's power to fire leaders of independent agencies. A critical issue is Mr. Trump seeks to reshape the federal government through summary terminations. I guess this is Mr. Humphrey. Chat, I'm colorblind. What color is this man's eyes? Are they green? Are they gray? Don't his pupils look a little dilated? Anyone know? Blue? Oh, you're not screwing with me like that today. I know what blue is. You can't screw with me like that, chat. That is a blue tie. That might be a purple tie, I don't know. He's looking in two different directions? I guess so. So, independent agencies include things like, the Fed, the Federal Reserve, which is responsible for, it's blue, thank you. The Federal Reserve is, an agency that is an independent agency that is responsible for setting the interest rate for which banks can borrow from, itself, the Federal Reserve. And that interest rate is something that affects our core inflation, that's able to adjust our inflation up or down. Are his eyes or his tie? His Delphi, I'm going to throw you. The statute that created the job now filled by Mr. Dellinger, who was confirmed by the Senate in 2024, provides for a 5-year term and says the special counsel may be removed by the president only for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. Which means, chat, type 1 if you assume that Trump sent this person. Welcome in, JD Edgy. You're Delph, you know what you did. You're great. You're great. You're fine. We love you. Welcome in, Adora. Chat, type 1 if you think that this guy was sent, a long report about his malfeasance, his inefficiency, or his neglect of duty. Or type 2 if you think he was sent a one-word email giving no reasons to terminating him effective immediately. Yeah, Chad, welcome in, Adora. Welcome in, Gear Graphic. Is he going to try to fire Powell? Yes, Chad. If he's successful in firing this head of an independent agency that's responsible for stopping government corruption, he's going to fire Powell from the Fed. He's just going to take complete control of even the independent agencies. So after he was fired, he sued, and Judge Amy Bermy Jackson of the Federal District Court in Washington entered a temporary restraining order allowing Mr. Dellinger to keep his job. Temporary restraining orders are generally not appealable. So the reasons why temporary restraining orders are generally not appealable is because the effects that they're having are too short. This is something that keeps him employed for 2 weeks. And then, she's considering whether or not to enter a preliminary injunction at this time. Not now. He's got a hyperlink to a tweet that fired him. Jesus Christ. The statute, Judge Jackson wrote, expresses Congress's clear intent to ensure the independence of the special counsel, the independent agency which is supposed to keep us safe from ethics violations, and insulate his work from being buffeted by the winds of political change. Because he's an independent agency, adding that the government's only response to this inarguable reading of the text is that the statute is unconstitutional. And that's their argument. The argument here is that independent agencies, agencies created by Congress that are supposed to be a merging of legislative power and executive power are illegal. That it has to be all executive. Divided 3-judge panel of the U.S. Courts of Appeals rejected the government's emergency motion for a stay of Judge Jackson's ruling, basically allowing this man to stay fired. The unsigned majority opinion said the government motion was premature. The question here is not whether the president is entitled to prompt review of his important constitutional arguments. Of course he is. The issue before us is whether his mere claim of extraordinary harm justifies this court's immediate review, which would essentially remove the legal issues from the district court ambit before these proceedings have concluded. So basically, Judge Jackson issued a temporary restraining order, says, hey, Trump, maybe you can't fire this guy for 2 weeks so we can figure all this shit out. And he immediately appeals. And the Court of Appeals says, hey, hold your horses. Maybe just let the district court judge figure this out. I hate the Fifth Republic. In France, it's even worse. The president could replace him day one. Jade, France is doing much better than us as a country. The administration's emergency application to the Supreme Court has taken aim at precedent from a 1935 case that's been critical to government operations. The case being Humphrey's Executor v. United States. Kono, that bar is in hell? True. The bar of whether a country is doing better than the United States is in hell. Now, chat, type 1 if you want me to explain to you the case of Humphrey's Executor v. United States, because I came prepared today. I have case notes. I have case notes, chat. There we go. Let me get a picture of William E. Humphrey for all of us. There we go. Here we are. William E. Humphrey. Oh God, not case notes. Oh, enjoy your lurk, Thomas. He came and is prepared. I have come. Kono has a slideshow? I have. Lots of things. Oh, I accidentally opened up my own legal brief. Jesus Christ, I shouldn't have that open on stream. I absolutely hate this case so much. Oh, go enjoy your stream, Vampy. Have fun. Hugs you to death. Enjoy yourself, Vampy. So William E. Humphrey, this guy right here, was appointed by President Herbert Hoover, the Republican who was in charge during the Great Depression initially, as commissioner of the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, for a fixed 7-year term. So, exactly like our guy here being put into power by, Joe Biden for a fixed 7-year term. President FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt, after taking office, sought to remove Humphrey because he wanted someone more aligned with his New Deal policies. Like, how Trump wanted someone aligned with his policies of, I guess, firing everyone and making America worse. However, the FTC Act stipulated that commissioners can only be removed for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance. Wait a minute. That's the exact same statute as what's happening now. Wait, are you telling me that this has already happened 85 years ago? That's crazy. Humphrey refused to resign, and Roosevelt, fired him. Humphrey then died, and his executor brought a suit to recover his lost salary, arguing that the removal was unlawful. The Supreme Court ruled that President Roosevelt's removal of Humphrey was unconstitutional. Much like fashion history repeats itself, it's repeating itself, but I think it might have a different ending this time. The court held that the president does not have unrestricted power to remove officials from independent regulatory agencies like the FTC, or I would assume, the Office of Special Counsel, which Congress intended to operate outside of executive control. Unlike purely executive officers who serve at the pleasure of the president. Chad, let's look at some of, just so you can understand, there's like an executive agency and an independent agency. Let me show you a picture of, here we go. Here's a picture of a guy who's in charge of an executive agency. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., pictured here with Russell Brand and Dr. Oz. This guy's in charge of the Department of Health and Human Services, which only operates in order to, at the president's discretion to, regulate certain services that were provided. And I guess under Robert F. Kennedy Jr., potentially make us camps that we're going to send all our mentally disadvantaged folks to work on. I bet these guys can tell different brands of pepper spray by taste. Oh my God. Thanks for the pick. I hate it. Well, I have to explain to you, what an executive agency is, Chad. It's important. It's important. And that's different from an independent agency like Mr. Humphrey worked at, which is supposed to be, regulating the other agencies, making sure that the government's working properly. That's not supposed to be fickle to political change. Mentally and physically, he wants to criminalize obesity and asthma. True. The decision. Okay, so this decision, Humphrey, reinforced the principle that Congress can place limits on the president's power to remove certain officials and independent agencies. So, Chad, Humphrey stood 85 years ago for the idea that independent agencies like the Office of Special Counsel, the FTC, the people who are in charge of, these ethics issues in our government can't be removed by the president, because the idea is we want to have insulation in these independent agencies. So, however, we just explained all that. In 2020, though, the U.S. Supreme Court, which, was 2 of them having been chosen by Donald Trump, or was it 3? I think it might have been 3, seemed to lay the groundworks for overruling that president in a case involving the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And the law that created the Bureau, using language identical to that at issue in Humphrey's executor, and in Mr. Dellinger's case here, said the president can remove its directors only for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. In a 5-4 decision, the court struck down that provision, saying it violated the separation of powers, and the president could remove the Bureau's director for any reason. And language that anticipated the court's decision in July, granting Mr. Trump, then a private citizen, substantial immunity from prosecution for conduct during his first term. Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the majority, said the presidency requires an energetic executive. So Chief Justice John Roberts is the, head of the Supreme Court. What the fuck? We're so fucked then? That is what's happening. In our constitutional system here in 2020, the executive power belongs to the president, and that power generally includes the ability to supervise and remove the agents who wield executive power in its stead. The general reasoning in the Chief Justice's opinion left Humphrey's executor on life support. 2 members of the court, Justice Clarence Thomas, known crazy person, and Neil Gorsuch would have pulled the plug right away. The decision Humphrey's executor poses a direct threat to our constitutional structure. You know, the constitutional structure that had been living for 85 years unchanged. And as a result of the liberty of the American people, he added, with today's decision, the court has repudiated almost every aspect of Humphrey's executor. In a future case, I would repudiate what is left of this erroneous precedent. We live in a society, we do. So basically, chat, what this means is the U.S. Supreme Court's about to say, yeah, fuck this guy. He's going to get fired. His firing is going to be lawful. And Trump is then going to be able to go after every single head of every single independent agency that's left in this country. He's going to go after Jerome Powell if Jerome Powell doesn't listen to him. He's going to go after he's going to gut the Office of Special Counsel. He's just going to reshape every single independent agency. I know I'm voting for Fiery Meteor in 2028. The Fiery Meteor doesn't come until 2035. And unfortunately, the Fiery Meteor will hit somewhere in either South America or India if it hits us. So yeah, chat, say goodbye to Mr. Dellinger. Everyone say bye. Because there is no universe in which this 6-3 Supreme Court allows this man to keep his job. Everyone buys in chat. Everyone say bye. Good job, chat. Next story.